Helen Keller. Helen Adams Keller was born on June 27, 1880, in Tuscumbia, Alabama, to Arthur H. Keller and Kate Adams Keller. She was a healthy and curious baby who began to speak early and took great joy in exploring the world around her. But at just 19 months old, Helen contracted an illness, possibly scarlet fever or meningitis, that left her both deaf and blind. Overnight, the bright world she knew disappeared. She could no longer hear her parents' voices or see their faces. Her family struggled to communicate with her, and Helen became increasingly frustrated and wild. A childhood locked in silence and darkness. 1882, 1887. Without sight or hearing, Helen lived in isolation. She created her own signs to communicate basic ideas, but most people could not understand her. Her anger grew, and she often had intense outbursts. Her parents, desperate to help her, consulted experts until they were referred to Alexander Graham Bell, who recommended a young teacher from the Perkins School for the Blind, Anne Sullivan, a 20-year-old woman with partial vision. Anne would become the most important person in Helen Keller's life. Anne Sullivan's arrival. The breakthrough, 1887. Anne Sullivan arrived at the Keller home on March 3, 1887, a date Helen later called her soul's birthday. Anne immediately began teaching Helen sign language using manual alphabet letters. Helen memorized the movements, but she did not yet understand that the hand signs represented real words. The breakthrough came one famous day at the water pump. As cold water rushed over Helen's hand, Anne spelled WATER into her other hand. Suddenly, Helen understood. Everything has a name. This moment changed her life forever. She asked for the names of everything she touched: mug, tree, mother, and later recalled learning 30 words by nightfall. Education and rapid growth. 1887, 1900. Once the door to language opened, Helen's progress was astonishing. She learned to read Braille, to write using a special typewriter, and to communicate fluently using sign language. Anne remained by her side day and night, spelling every word Helen needed to understand the world. Helen became the first deafblind person to attend high school and dreamed of going to college. She worked endlessly, studying German, French, Latin, math, and literature. Radcliffe College and literary success. 1900, 1904. In 1900, Helen entered Radcliffe College, the women's division of Harvard. Anne attended every class with her, interpreting lectures by spelling them into Helen's hand. The workload was exhausting, but Helen remained determined. In 1903, while still in college, she published her first and most famous autobiography, The Story of My Life. She graduated in 1904, becoming the first deafblind person in history to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. Activism and public work. 1904-1940. Helen Keller became a global celebrity, not only because of her extraordinary achievements, but because of her compassion and determination to help others. She became a powerful advocate for people with disabilities, women's rights, workers' rights, education, peace and social justice, access to Braille and assistive technology. She toured the world giving lectures, through interpreters, wrote numerous books and articles, and worked closely with the American Foundation for the Blind, AFB, for over 40 years. Her speeches, though delivered through interpreters, inspired millions. Later life and global influence. 1940-1968. Helen continued to travel, write, and advocate into her 70s and 80s. She met world leaders including presidents, prime ministers, and monarchs. She also visited wounded soldiers during World War II to encourage them. In her final years, Helen lived quietly in Connecticut with companions who assisted her after Anne Sullivan's death in 1936. Helen Keller died peacefully on June 1, 1968, at the age of 87. Her legacy continues through organizations for the blind and deafblind, and through countless people inspired by her story of courage, intelligence, and perseverance. Questions and answers. 1. When and where was Helen Keller born? Answer: June 27, 1880, in Tuscumbia, Alabama. 2. What illness left Helen Keller deaf and blind? Answer: an unknown illness, likely scarlet fever or meningitis, at 19 months old. 3. Who became Helen Keller's lifelong teacher and companion? Answer: Anne Sullivan. 4. What was the famous breakthrough moment in Helen's education? Answer: understanding that signs represented words at the water pump when Anne spelled water into her hand. 5. What languages did Helen study while preparing for college? Answer: German, French, Latin, and English literature. 6. What college did Helen Keller attend? Answer: Radcliffe College. 7. What major accomplishment did Helen achieve in 1904? Answer: she became the first deafblind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. 8. What book did Helen publish while in college? Answer: The Story of My Life. 9. What causes did Helen Keller advocate for? Answer: disability rights, women's rights, workers' rights, education, and social justice. 10. When did Helen Keller die? Answer: June 1, 1968.